Good morning, I'm Lucien, and I'm a Republican candidate for state treasurer. My granddaddy's from western Ottawa County, a little place called Double Springs, and they had a trick to figure out what a child would be when he was born, when he grew up. When he got about old enough to crawl, they would lay it out in front of a Bible, a bottle of corn whiskey, and a stack of money. And they knew if the baby crawled towards the Bible, he'd grow up to be a great preacher. And if he crawled towards the corn whiskey, he'd grow up to be a worthless drunk. And if he crawled over the money, he grew up to be a great businessman or a banker. Well, when one of our neighbors had their baby, they laid it out. First it crawled over towards the Bible and flipped through a few pages, and the mama smiled. But then it crawled over to the corn whiskey, opened it up, drank it down to the last drop. And then it crawled over the money, picked it up, stuck it in its diaper, and crawled away. And the parents looked at each other, shook their heads, and said, "Oh no, we've got a politician." Well, I'm not a politician. I've never run for office. But like a lot of people, I'm worried about the direction our country's heading in, and I'm concerned about the future of the state. I think we've been fortunate to have a governor for the last 7 years who understands you've got to manage the state's finances conservatively, to keep taxes down, get them lower, and bring more and better jobs to the state of Mississippi. And apart from the protection of unborn life, I don't think there is a more important job for the people we have in office than those two things. Keeping taxes from going up and expanding economic opportunity by having a business-friendly climate and building the best educational system we possibly can. I'm confident that after the November elections, we're going to have a good conservative governor and a good conservative lieutenant governor. And I think we are finally going to put a Republican in the Speaker's office. And we've got some good folks in our legislature. But the problem we've got in Mississippi is the same problem we got in Washington. We've got too many people in our legislature a lot more interested in advancing their politics than in protecting our tax dollars. That's the cultural problem that's caused Washington to borrow 41 cents out of every dollar it spends from places like China. It's why states like Wisconsin and New York and California are teetering on the verge of bankruptcy. And if we're not careful, the same thing can happen in Mississippi. I've been honored to serve as one of Governor Barber's budget advisors and have been fighting against the sort of short-sighted decisions that look good on paper, that get people reelected, but ultimately drive taxes up and drive employers off. You know, it's no different than buying a truck or a piece of furniture on credit and being told there won't be any payments for the first year. Well, that's true, but you better believe they're coming and looking for their money in a year. The same thing's true of the state's finances. When we borrow money we can't afford for programs we don't need, when we drain our reserve funds, and when we adopt unrealistic budget or revenue estimates, taxes won't go up this year, but they'll go up a year from now, and 5 years from now, and our children and grandchildren will be paying for the bad decisions that we've made. We need a treasurer who understands the state's finances and who's committed to conservative principles and who's ready to fight from day one for the taxpayers to make sure we make the decisions that expand economic opportunity, that improve the state of our state, not just the easy decisions for the politicians. That's what I've been doing as one of Governor Barber's budget advisors, and it's what I plan to keep on doing as state treasurer. You know, we know the next several years are going to be difficult. Between tax receipts being down because of the national recession, the increased cost of entitlements because of mandates coming out of the Obama administration, and the end of the federal stimulus program, there's as much as $1 billion hole in our finances. And that's going to put an immense amount of pressure on the legislature to resort to the sort of budgetary tricks that look good on paper, but are ultimately devastating for the taxpayers. We need a treasurer who understands it and who's ready to fight. I've been doing it, and I'm running for treasurer to keep on doing it. I'll give you just one example of the sort of thing I'm talking about. It's the $6 million giveaway to the city of Jackson. Jackson's got severe water problems. About once a year it gets below freezing and the pipes break. And because we cool the government servers with water, anytime the pipes break, you've got to shut down the government offices in the Capitol complex. So the legislature decided to help Jackson out. The plan was we're going to borrow $6 million. We're going to loan it to the city of Jackson, and Jackson is going to pay it back to the taxpayers over time after fixing their water problems. The problem was, if you actually read what the legislature approved, it was a $6 million, zero interest, non-recourse loan. That means two things. One, The city of Jackson wasn't paying the taxpayers of Mississippi any interest. And 2, is a non-recourse loan. There was no legal mechanism to force Jackson to pay that money back. Well, I don't know about you, but I sure wouldn't mind a $6 million loan that nobody could make me pay back. And I guarantee you Jackson was thrilled to get offered that kind of loan. Fortunately, in Mississippi, the legislature authorizes debt, but the bond commission has to approve it. That's the governor, the treasurer, and the attorney general. Governor Barber and the treasurer, the governor's budget staff said, we're not giving Jackson a $6 million loan knowing that that money is never coming back to the taxpayers of Mississippi. That loan hadn't been issued, and it won't be issued until Jackson pledges collateral that guarantees that every cent that comes out of the treasury comes back to the taxpayers of Mississippi. That's just one example of the sort of thing I'm talking about, the sort of thing the legislature is going to be tempted to do, and we've got to fight against. You know, since this campaign started, I've put about 30,000 miles on my truck and about 20 pounds on my body. And I gave this talk in Tupelo a few months ago, and I thought I'd done a great job. But when I sat down, the woman sitting across from me said, Lucien, you've convinced me that the folks in Jackson will mess this up if we let them. You've convinced me that somebody like you ought to be the next state treasurer. The problem is I don't have any idea who you are. So let me tell you, I'm Lucien Smith. I'm a Christian and a committed social and fiscal conservative. My family is originally from Clay and Ottawa counties, but I grew up in the Jackson area. I worked for Governor Barber once before with a focus on issues related to life. And we got the legislature to pass 7 bills that helped make Mississippi the safest place in America to be an unborn child. We did such a good job. That the left-wing Guttmacher Institute, a far-left pro-abortion group, condemned us for what we did. And let me tell you, if you're in the business of protecting life and the liberals from Washington condemn you, you are doing a very, very good job. I'm also a certified public funds investment manager. That's a designation given by the Association of Public Treasurers based on testing of the fiscal issues you've got to understand to run a state or local treasury. I'm proud of the work that I did on life. I'm proud of the work we did to help make sure Mississippi makes good decisions with its finances. But one of the things I'm proudest of is being the governor's lead counsel on the challenge to Obamacare. When Obamacare was passed, we knew it would be devastating for our state's finances. We knew that it clearly violated the Constitution of the United States, and so we asked the state's attorney, Jim Hood, to go and sue the federal government and get it struck down. But our attorney general shrugged and said, I'm not going to do it. So we invoked the constitutional provision in Mississippi's Constitution that allows the governor to act as attorney general when the attorney general declines or refuses to do his job. We went to Florida, we sued the federal government, and we are on track to striking down a law that will do more damage to Mississippi's finances and our nation's Constitution than anything that's happened in generations. My family's been in Mississippi for 8 generations. We say 8 generations because it's nicer to say that we've been here since they opened up the debtors' prisons and we headed west. But in a very real sense, we're coming up on a crossroads. And the decisions that we make over the course of the next several years in terms of how we spend money, how we borrow money, and how we deal with the serious problems in the public employees' retirement system will have consequences for generations. We need a treasurer who understands the state's finances and who's ready to fight from day one to make sure we make decisions in the best interest of the taxpayers, not the best interest of the politicians. That's what I've been doing, and that's why I'm running for treasurer. I've been endorsed by the Neshoba Democrat, by former party chairman Brad White, and I've been recommended by Mississippi Right to Life. But I'm seeking on August 2nd the only endorsement that matters, and that's yours. Next Tuesday, I'd very much appreciate your vote for me, Lucien Smith, your support between now and then, and either way, I'd very much appreciate your prayers. I'm sorry if we don't get a chance to visit today. I planned on spending the rest of the day walking from cabin to cabin, visiting with friends and supporters. But this morning, a coffee pot shattered and cut me so badly the EMT said, you need to go to the hospital to stop the bleeding. And I told him, well, you better wrap me up tight because I'm going to the Neshoba County Fair first.